Oh, here we go. So yeah, in case it wasn't clear from the title, I was a bigot. I know, crazy, right? But River, you're so nice now. You're so open and accepting. And oh my goodness, I dropped my microphone. I guess it just doesn't want to get stuck on anywhere. Anyways, you're like, but River, you're so nice. You're so loving. I mean, aren't you non binary? Yes, I am. My pronouns are they, them, in fact. But here's what happened I was a Christian for a really, really long time. Let me start at the beginning, okay? And for starters, before I get really, really deep into this, I have to say something. The stuff that I talk about in terms of my abuse and everything, it doesn't excuse the bad things that I did. It doesn't excuse it. Um, yeah. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that when I am explaining what happened and why it happened, I'm not making excuses. Okay, so let's keep going. My ex mother, Melody, is a narcissist. She, gosh, how can I put this? She was a covert, malignant narcissist. She took part in some really horrible things that happened to me in terms like, so I don't know how much I can actually say on YouTube without getting like censored or flagged or whatever, but basically I was adopted from Moscow, Russia. And I was adopted shortly after Melody lost a son. And I'm not even going to get into that whole side of things, but she lost a son and she adopted me from Russia. And then she used me to make some really inappropriate content with my uncle. So basically, my uncle had this thing where I'd go to like sleepovers at his house. And there were some really not okay photo shoots that were taken. Um, so yeah, that's like the surface level backstory of kind of what happened. And growing up, I was always told I was a bad person. I was told I was ungrateful because I had behavioral issues. I mean, of course I did because of all the stuff that was taking place. Melody would scream at me nonstop. She would force me to wear stuff I wasn't comfortable in. I had no autonomy over my body, how I looked, how I presented myself, what my room looked like, how I kept my space. I didn't have I didn't have that. And I was told that I was evil, that I was bad, that I was ungrateful for everything Melody had done for me. Oh my goodness. You're so ungrateful. They adopted you from Moscow, Russia, and this is how you repay them by throwing temper tantrums, by not wearing the clothes she picks out for you. And then I went to church. And the church told me that yeah, I was bad, but that forgiveness was possible and redemption was possible. And I can't gosh, I'm going to get a little emotional here. I wanted that. Okay? I didn't want to be a bad person. I wanted to be good. I didn't want to be the ungrateful, horrible person that my family made me out to be. I genuinely wanted to be a good person. I wanted to fight against everything they said that I was with everything I had. And I thought the church, being a Christian, this is how I do that. So I jumped in feet first or head first, whatever, and I devoted my life to Christ. And I just, my intentions were genuine. Okay. Um, and when I was in church, so the churches I went to Willow Creek. Yikes. Yikes. I went to, I also was part of ICOC for a bit, but they were like a legit cult. Um, there's actually been like organizations that are dedicated solely to getting people away from this organization or from this church. Um, Yeah, it was really bad. And then I also went to this other church. It was something resurrection. And then I was also part of these like college ministries. So, yeah. Oh, also, fun fact, I grew up in Wheaton. And if you know anything about Wheaton, Wheaton is home to Wheaton College, which is basically the Harvard of Christian colleges. So there were a lot of fundamentalist churches around there. So, like almost every church you went to, almost every church you went to, you could find a pastor there that graduated from Wheaton College. So, yeah. And if you know anything about Wheaton College, it's very strict, very fundamentalist, and yeah. So, anyways, growing up in high school and in college and a little bit of middle school, where I was trying my best to be a good Christian, I was told the way to love people is by telling them that they're a sinner. They told me it was tough love. And I wanted to be a good Christian. I wanted to be a good person. So I thought, okay, yeah, I guess this makes sense. So I tried it, and people didn't respond the way I expected them to, or the way that I felt that they should have, because I thought, I'm trying to do something nice for you. I'm trying to save your soul. This is me trying to express that I care about you. That was my perspective. But what I was saying and what they were hearing was, you're a sinner, you're dirty, you're going to hell, and you're a bad person. And that was not my intention. That was the message that came across. Absolutely. I mean, the message that came across was the whole like, you're bad, you're horrible, you're sinful, you're wrong, change everything about you. And I didn't understand why I was getting so much negative pushback. And the church responded with, well, that's supposed to happen. You're being persecuted for the gospel. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm doing it right? I didn't want to be a bad person. I didn't want to hurt people. I wanted to save their souls because I cared about them. And I thought, and I had legitimate anxiety over, oh my God, my friends are going to hell. I care about these people. I don't want them to go to hell. So yeah, I got pushy, and that was not right. That wasn't okay. And I, I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about what happened. And I eventually left the church because I realized it was doing way more harm than good. And also, I realized I'm I'm telling these people what I've been told to tell them. I've been doing everything I'm supposed to do, but it doesn't seem to be actually doing any good. It seems to be doing more harm than good. And I started to ask questions, which that was a big no no. I wasn't supposed to ask questions. No, I was supposed to just do as I was told, but I asked questions, and the answers I would get repeatedly are, oh, they're trying to take you away from Satan, or they're trying to take you away from Jesus, try and pull you to Satan. Like, I remember one time I asked a pastor, like, hey, why are non-Christians nicer to me than Christians? And they flat out said that they're intentionally trying to take you away from Jesus. And I was in college at this point, and I just kind of realized this was bullshit. Ooh, I don't know. Ooh, YouTube, don't get mad at me for saying a no word. Sorry. Anyways, so yeah, I just realized that this was a load of crap, and I started to walk away. That's when I started to walk away. I remember I was at College of DuPage, and we were in the little Starbucks, and I was talking. It wasn't really a pastor; it was more of like a youth leader, someone who was in charge of a college ministry. I asked, and I just, something clicked in my head where I was like, this isn't worth it. And as I progressed further on my, I guess, deconstruction, I realized that this was getting in the way of me healing from my own trauma. So that's when I really walked away from the church and walked away from Jesus, and allowed myself to explore myself more and who I was. I explored my sexuality, I explored my gender identity, and it turns out that I'm non binary. And a lot of people get confused when it's like, you're non binary? Like, what does that mean? Like, it means that I am non binary. It means that my gender is a mystery, even to me. I don't understand my gender fully yet. And gender is one of those things that's really complicated and personal, and it's something I was never really allowed to explore. And I'm really glad that I was able to learn this about myself. Like, I was really grateful because I know for some people who are still stuck in the church, they're not really allowed to do that. And I feel really happy that I walked away. And I learned this about myself, and I stopped pressuring myself to conform to gender stereotypes with, like, wearing certain makeup, walking around in pretty pastel dresses, having, a cute high ponytail that my mom always wanted. That might have been a mom thing, and maybe not as much of a gender thing, but anyways. So it also explained why I was always so uncomfortable in the clothes that Melody, my ex-mom, I refer to my ex-mom because she's not my mother anymore because I've disowned her, why I felt so uncomfortable in the clothes that she chose for me and why it was such a big deal. Like, I thought there was something really wrong with me. I thought I was just a bad person at heart. Like, my identity was just corrupted and horrible and just evil. And I tried to fight against that by being more of who she wanted me to be more of, who the church wanted me to be. And I just got to a point where I was like, this isn't worth it. And I walked away. And it's kind of funny. I feel like I kind of came at it from an idea of, like, this is starting my villain era. I'm going to be the bad guy, and I'm going to watch South Park and say swear words and explore my gender and be nice to myself and not constantly tell myself what a horrible person I am. Ooh, I'm so bad. I know that's funny, but it is literally coughing, how I thought. Like, I remember I was sitting in my apartment with Matt, and Matt's my husband, and I was like, oh, I can watch South Park. So I turned on South Park, and I felt like the biggest rebel. I felt like the biggest badass. And I don't know, South Park is really good. I'm a huge South Park fan. I actually have a little see? It's my little goth stan right here. Um but I remember the first time I started at episode 1 of South Park, episode 1, season 1, and I watched that whole thing. And I just felt so, like, giddy, like, ooh, I'm so bad. And that's that's that was just an interesting time in my life where I was starting to explore these darker things, or things I was never allowed to get into because of the church or my parents, and I just felt like so evil. I also this is kind of a really weird but dumb story. I really struggled a lot with, like, feeling guilty if I wasn't, like, 100% selfless all the time. So for some reason, because my brain is weird like this, I had this, like, image of Cartman from South Park pop up into my head. And he's like, you know, sometimes it's okay to be an asshole. Like, sometimes it's okay to be an asshole. And I don't know why that helped me. I don't know why that liberated me. I don't know why it was Cartman of all people. I probably, if Cartman pops into your head and starts talking to you, you probably shouldn't listen to him. But I did. And I started doing things that were super selfish. Like, if there were two pieces of cake left, I took the bigger one. Yeah, I took the bigger one. I was such an asshole. I was so selfish. Again, I know it's silly, but that's the stuff that kind of became a huge deal in my head, because I felt like as long as I was miserable, as long as I was suffering at the expense of someone else, then I was doing something right. And if I took, like, the bigger piece of cake, or I did something and I put myself first, like, I was being a horrible, horrible human being and an asshole. And I just kind of started putting myself first. And it wasn't that bad. The thing that I kept in mind though is that I can put myself first and not actively harm other people. Like that was something that I talked to my therapist with, and I did a lot of soul searching and research, and just trying to figure out like, okay, where's the line between putting yourself first, but also like how do you do that without actually hurting people? So it was a long, complicated process that I went through, but I came out of it and I'm doing really good. And I'm making this video because I'm proud of the fact that I changed for the better. I'm proud of the fact that I let go of a lot of toxic beliefs. I'm not happy that I had them in the first place, but I'm glad that I let go of them now. And I'm glad that I found myself. And, sometimes I'll be on Facebook or something and someone will ask a question. I've even had this where I will like ask a genuine question. I'll get attacked in the comments about like, "Oh, you should know this," or someone will answer the question. I'll ask for more clarification because I didn't understand, and people will just go off on me. And I was genuinely trying to learn. So I think part of the reason I make this video is because I want people to know that people can change. People don't always change. But if people are willing to change and they want to change, can we please try to have a little more grace for them? Can we be patient? Can we not scare them off further to their into their toxic beliefs? I think we need to get better at communicating, especially on social media, because sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference between a troll and someone who is genuinely trying to understand and trying to work out their own toxic beliefs. Oh man, I'm getting a little emotional. And I want people to know that, hey, if you were in a spot where I was, where you're confused and you don't understand why you are getting so much, why it seems like you're hurting people when you just want to love them, for starters, you are hurting them. Second, stop, breathe, just take a breath and just take some time to try to think about, okay, what do I want to happen? What are my actual goals? And is what I am doing going to accomplish those goals? If I want to show people that I love them, is telling them that I'm going to hell really the best way to do that, or is that a way to make myself feel superior? Is that a way to make myself feel like I'm doing my Christian duty? Cuz it sometimes for me it was also like I wanted to feel like I was doing a good job. Sometimes it wasn't about the other person. Sometimes it wasn't about their soul. Especially once I got out of high school and into college, it felt more performative because I didn't have as deep of connections with these people in college, or at least non Christians in college. I really cared a lot about my high school classmates, especially because I felt like we shared a common trauma, which was my high school, and that's a whole nother story. But basically, it was a tiny Montessori school that went from ages 2 to 18, and yeah, like 2 as in pooping your pants, to 18 as in legal to vote 18. And oh my god, it was run by an actual narcissistic, and he may or may not have had ties to like actual Nazis. Let me explain. So one time we were doing history class, and this teacher was he I refer to him as L in the dedication of Death to the Soul because I use my writing to deal with my trauma, okay? So we're going to refer to him as L like I do in the dedication of Death to the Soul. If you want to read that, go to my Dead Soul store and it's right there. Um, but yeah, anyway, so Elle was teaching history class to this tiny room of like, I don't know, 8 kids. And we were, I don't know, I have dyscalculia, so I don't even know how many kids were actually in the room, but it was not like a normal class size. My graduating class was 3 people. So I was in the top and bottom 3 of my class. Yeah. Anyways, the way the school worked was really weird. Basically, um, junior or what's the first one? Freshman, junior, senior, sophomore that was all like they all would do classes together because there was usually just like I said, like in my class there were like 3 seniors, okay? So we were doing classes with the sophomores, the freshmen, the juniors. And L comes up and he's talking about World War II, and he was, and I didn't catch on how weird this was at the time because no one else caught on that this was weird. And he was like, "Oh yeah, no, nowadays Nazis aren't that bad of people. They have barbecues and softball teams." And of course, the teenage boys walked away like, "I want to be." I didn't have the proper perspective at the time, especially because my brain was so fried from constantly being abused by this teacher, by my family. I was not with it. I was dissociating, and I only started to put the pieces together after I got out of that situation, and just yikes. Oh, and then here's another fun fact. So I moved to this other apartment that was right across from this gas station where I met this guy who was super, super great. And he knew of the school. He knew of L. And I asked him, "So is L a Nazi?" And he looked at me without missing being. He's like, "Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he is." Like, it's an open secret. He has people protecting him. He has some people with some sort of authority protecting him. And that's another reason why I can't really use his real name. It's because I don't want to put myself at risk. If I am hoping eventually to foster a big enough platform and get to a safe enough spot where I actually can name this person, where I can expose this school to protect future victims, because this is not okay. Like, the things that happened there were really messed up. And before you ask me, where were your parents? Right there. My parents were like there. They didn't care. They didn't care. Like I said, Melody was helping my ex-uncle make some not super appropriate videos with me as a child. So she probably knew, she just didn't give a shit. And my dad, my ex-dad, he was really oblivious. Oh man, he was either oblivious or just willfully ignorant. Ha! Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot. Well, yeah. So that's my story, part of it, anyways. And yeah, I guess I just want to say one last thing that, like, again, if you are someone who is genuinely wanting to do good, genuinely wanting to love people, don't make them feel bad about who they are or who they love. Don't do it. That's not how to do it. Whatever you might believe about their lifestyle, fine, but you need to be able to express love instead of judgment. Okay? It's like, I don't know. I don't even know how to like explain it, but like, just don't do the tough love thing. That's not, it doesn't do what you think it does. And I mean, if you want to have those Christian good person points, like, I'm a good Christian and I'm being persecuted. If that's what you want, then by all means keep going, because that's about you. That's not actually about doing the right thing. And yeah, you can take screenshots of people reacting reasonably to you being an asshole and being like, look how persecuted I am. Okay, that's nice. You're persecuted. You're a poor little baby. Now go cry in a corner. But just leave the rest of us alone. And again, if you see someone who's asking a question, please try not to jump to the worst conclusion. Try to ask, like, okay, are you actually asking a question or something? Like, it's a complicated situation, and I just really wish we could all just try to be a little nicer to each other, because this world is hard enough as it is. And I'm going to stop talking because I'm getting tired and I'm rambling, and yeah. Okay. All right. And thank you for listening so much. Thank you so much for listening. I can't talk. I'm too tired. Good night.